Let's do real UXR with $0. You need to do your research. Your timeline is yesterday, your budget is 0, and your stakeholder just said, why don't you just have ChatGPT do it? Here's the thing. They're not entirely wrong. AI just made these 6 research methods more powerful than ever, and if you have a membership, they're free. And if you don't have a membership, here's some links below that you can use my code to get a discount on your memberships for AI tools that I'll be using today. I'm going to give you the full theme park edition of how we can use AI to put into the chat box our research method questions. And I will give you the prompts to use so that you're putting in the right prompts to use the right user research methods to make sure you're getting adequate answers for your research for UX design. We're also going to do a spin on it because it's Theme Park Thursday. So we're going to do it theme park themed because Disney, how fun. And if you stick around to the end, I'll give you that decision framework that you can just paste right in. Hey, my name is Jill and I'm a UX designer. I've been in fintech for about 10 years, working in UX design and graphic design. And I'm here to just teach you about design and what can we learn from specifically travel to teach us about design in a fun way. So if that interests you and you love to travel and you love design, feel free to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment of your favorite place to be and your favorite types of design. And I will answer every single comment because this channel is new and exciting for me. User research doesn't require a lab. It does, however, usually require a recruiting budget. Depending on the type of user research you're doing, it no longer requires a budget or recruiting. There's a lot of ways that you can do free research with to make sure that you're getting adequate answers. But the key is you have to use the right method. So I want to show you how to do that today. I would say the best part of using AI for UX research is that with these things in mind, unless you're doing a very specific type of research plan, you don't need a huge budget. You also don't need a huge timeline. So going back to that stakeholder who needed it yesterday and just wants you to use ChatGPT, let me show you how. Again, I think it's always best to speak with real users. However, this is something that you can do right before you do a massive study with actual real people so that you can have a more targeted approach to speaking with real folks. Okay, first method, be smart here, people. Use what we got, right? We have Apple reviews, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, Reddit. We have all of these tools free, accessible right there. Just look up all the reviews, paste them into your favorite tool, mine is Claude, and then have it analyze the data. So for example, if you're searching for cruise reviews, and that's the category, you can look at cruise apps, cruise booking tools, Disney Cruise Line, obviously, Princess Cruise Line. You can look at specific cruise line apps. You can also look at general apps that have generalized booking agents like Travelocity. What are the other ones? Travelocity. What else do I use? Yelp? I don't know. I think people forget that this is something they can use for UXR. And when I say UXR, by the way, I mean user experience research or user research, UXR. The greatest thing about using these tools is one, it's free. 2, you get the really good and the really bad. So unfortunately, you do have to kind of fill in the middle of the sandwich. However, you do get a taste for what the really big pain points are and what the really big high points are. So for example, if your topic is cruise lines, you could go to Travelocity and you would get a taste for what these users really love or really hate. Or a lot of times, which I love, is the people who leave the 3 stars. That's kind of your general happy area. I love the people that leave the 3 stars because it gives you a good taste of how adequate the experience was. But what we do love is to see the 1 stars because that's where you're like, ooh, gosh, okay, putting that on the journey map. So what you can do is you take all of these comments, all of these reviews, all of this feedback, and then you can plug it into Claude. So, or you could use ChatGPT, you could even use Google's chatbot. However, the best thing about this is it will very quickly analyze what the average pain points are, what the mediocre things are, how it compares to other experiences, and then also like the top comments. So depending on what you put into Claude, it will give you a specific output. The best part of this also is that you'll begin to see patterns too. Also in these comments, because again, we're taking probably thousands or hundreds of comments, you'll start to see consistent themes. And what I would ask it for is specific themes, specific pain points, and really high points. Method 2, guerrilla interviews. Find people where they already are. Right? They're in line at a theme park. They're sitting at the coffee shop in the airport. Or if you're in PDX, they're at the Tillamook bus watching their kids play. this is a great place to just ask them a few questions because they're already there. They're just killing time. So you can ask these 3 questions. Again, keep it short. They're still trying to keep an eye on the time and their gait and probably their kids. So keep it under 5 minutes. The AI upgrade, transcription. 1, ask them if you actually can record them and you can use that for data. 2, transcribe it with AI. Because the more that you do that, the more keywords it picks up on. Then you can ask it to summarize it, and you can start to do the same thing that you did in number 1, where you did that with the Yelp reviews or the app reviews, but now you're doing it with real people. And then it starts to build. So again, the more of these methods that you use together, the better. AI just makes it faster. Why is it important to transcribe it? The reason being, it's so much easier to search for your data if it's in the computer and not written on a million notes. Number 3, my favorite, the hallway test. Now, this one's not as widely used, and I would say it's not commonly known, but it is so powerful, and I wish that more people would use it. So this really only works if you work for a rather large institution. So again, I come from fintech. At Capital One, I was in the UX department. I could easily go to sales and get fairly adequate data because they're completely unaware of what I'm working on in UX. Say I worked in credit card and I went to the auto department and I asked them a set of questions. Their answers would probably be real to what's in the wild just because they're not aware of what I'm working on. They don't have really any insight. And I could be working on completely different personas than what theirs are in their department. How this works. So the reason it's called a hallway test is because you actually just walk around the office and you stop folks who look approachable and you just ask them to answer questions. So you literally, it's actually a hallway test. You're in the hallway, you have your little clipboard, you see a group of people walking by, and you go, hey, do you guys have a few minutes? I'm trying to do a hallway test. It'll take you maybe 5 minutes. I'm just trying to get some data so that I can get a pulse check on how this will impact my designs. They're literally just getting coffee, right? It's their 3rd coffee break of the day. They usually, unless they're going to a meeting, usually they're 100% on board to help you. They also sometimes are more open to be like, hey, if you ever want to get insights on a specific aspect, you should go talk to this person. So it's cross-pollination, but it's also just generally good camaraderie because then they're more apt to form a connection with you, and then you can help them with something in the future when they do a hallway test. Why is this gold? There is no scheduling, there's no recruiting, there's no budget, and the data is fairly accurate to the people that you would be interviewing in the wild. Now again, this only works if you're not doing a specific niche, if you don't have a specific user type that is so narrow, right? If you're trying to figure out if people to click on A or B, this would be a good use case. Okay, so how does a hallway test work? You could do a survey, but I would recommend doing some sort of prototype so that it feels real and they feel like they would be using this in the wild. When I say in the wild, by the way, I mean in real life, in real time, outside of a corporate office setting. So you take the prototype and you walk down the hall with your coffee and your little clipboard, let's say, and you stop people in the hallway and you just ask them, hey, do you have 5 minutes before your next meeting? We are from X department and we're looking to test your thoughts on this prototype that we have. Are you interested? And then they can say yay or nay, got to get to a meeting. Or if they say yes, great. Great use case for this is doing some sort of task test where you can ask them, where would you go if you needed to call XYZ? What would you do if you needed to complete this task? What did you tap first? And then you can ask them why too if you're just there and you're chatting. I would say the most important one though is to ask what was confusing to them, because that's probably going to be the one thing that you iterate on next. So it's great if they can complete the task, but it's even better if they can give you more context on what was confusing and why. Again, this only works if they have zero context of your brief. I would say almost who your stakeholders are too, because if you're like, oh, Sally from X department, yeah, she's working on that product. Just keep it simple. The feedback, in my experience with these hallway tests, a lot of the feedback that you'll get is, I haven't seen things like this before, so I'm not really sure how I would blah, blah, blah. If you're introducing a new asset that isn't widely used, most of your feedback is going to be that they're unfamiliar with that and they're unsure of what it does. But if you have other things before that asset that can build the momentum to utilize that asset, that is usually where you'll have a strong sense of feedback for something that's new and different. But again, this is why we need to test it with real people, because you could have AI test it, but if AI is aware of the trends that are new and different rather than real users who maybe don't interact with UA assets that are new and different, your data is automatically going to be skewed. 4 is prototype. So I love Replit. But if you're not there yet and you want to go with something that is a little bit more user-friendly. Also, what is going on? Am I a dinosaur? If you want to use something that's a little bit more user-friendly, I would say Figma AI, Figma Make, easy to use. Personally, I love Replit. I think they're amazing, and I just have an easier time tracking my Kanban board. But if you want to use Figma Make, that's fine. I would say just make a working prototype, whatever you choose to use. Then you can go to real users and say, test it out. And you'll watch them give feedback in real time, depending on the person. So what is the benefit of doing this? I would say if you are trying to be a marketing director, a UX researcher, you're trying to be many roles in once, the benefit of using these tools is that it is so fast. So you're able to move on to the next task without compromising on the actual design and the flow, which makes better user research, which makes better UX, which makes happier stakeholders. So you really just need to spend your time on the part that matters, which is getting as much insight as you can in the beginning so that you can rapidly iterate, right? Think of design thinking, you're rapidly iterating. You want to do that as much as possible. So the more AI tools you use, especially for the prototyping, the faster you'll be able to get the feedback you need to push things to production. Numero 5, go somewhere people interact and do what's called an observation journal. And the reason why this is really insightful is because you are just observing in the wild. You are just taking notes on patterns, behaviors, things people say, things people think out loud, for better or worse. Great places to do this are theme parks, hotel lobbies, bus stations, coffee shops. Again, in line for a Disney ride with 2 screaming children. Perfect place, right? There's probably going to be many of them throughout the day. You'll be able to easily do an observation journal of these types of behaviors that are repetitive. And these are things that Disney does use, right? Same with Knott's Berry Farm, same with Legoland. They have observationalists or UX researchers that go into the wild, stand in line, and just listen and watch to understand what the actual pain points are right there in real time, rather than when people have time to reflect on it and fill out surveys. There's a big difference in that because you get more heightened emotions. And to capture that is chef's kiss. You can see sometimes, depending on the parent, you can see them fuming. You can see the kids just crawling out of their skin of anxiety of waiting in line. Those type of insights, if you were to type your notes, even just voice record your notes from your observation journal into an AI tool, it can then record any of the patterns. It can spit out any of the themes that it sees. It can provide any high point emotion areas, like physically in the park. Let's say you're on Alice in Wonderland's ride and the ride is super long. It might start to figure out that if you did this for a week's time and you went to that ride every day and you saw Alice in Wonderland at 9:00 every single day, had very high emotions of positivity, you could start directing other cues to the Alice in Wonderland ride across the way, like Mr. Toad to Alice in Wonderland. You could say, oh, if you go here, you'll be able to get into Mr. Toad's after this queue clears up, because you can ride this ride and come back. And it creates a better experience for the user. So if you were to take all of these and use even 2 of them, you automatically are going to have a better design because you're working quicker and you're able to focus more on iterating on the user needs rather than just iterating on the UI needs. Woo! Methods, competitor analysis. So I would take 3 and tear down that experience. What absolutely does not work? Not even what people love, but what does not work? Because the quicker you get those learnings, the better your design. Don't do what people don't like that they do. And you can map these all out. So let's say you have 10, okay? Because AI is so fast now that I've done 21 in a day and it was fine. So let's say 10, just because you have a million things going on. If you took 10 and you asked it to thematize the different stages in their journey, and then you asked it to draw a journey map based on emotions, right? 1 to 5, 1 being really crappy, 5 being stellar, amazing. You can ask it to map out what those lines are in the chart, see those 10, then you can route it back to the heuristics and you can start to see a heuristic analysis that's not formally being done, but it's indicative in the journey map. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it gives you a pulse check of what you should be doing and what you should not be doing, what you can learn from companies and what you can take away from companies that you should not do. Again, if you're working fast, you just need structure. Okay, so we've talked about the 6, but which one do you use for which method, right? Because a lot of these are different methods. They get approximately the same value, but for different questions, you want to use different methods. Here's the framework. Need to figure out what people would actually say. Then I would review mining. Do you need to know what people do? Then I would say review observation. Do you need to know why people struggle? Guerrilla interviews. But if you just need like a general gut check, I would do hallway test. And if you need to know if your solution works, I would do a prototype test. Then if you need to know what you should and shouldn't do and maybe how you would stack up in the industry, I would do a competitive analysis. Zero budget does not mean zero research. It means zero excuses. And here is your quick win with using AI. So open Claude or ChatGPT or the Google AI tool, whatever you like to use, even Copilot, and you're going to paste this in. I need to answer this research question. I have zero budget and I needed this yesterday. I have zero budget and I have 1 week's time. Which of the 6 methods fits best? Review mining, guerrilla interviews, hallway testing, prototype testing, observation, or competitive analysis. This is very much not ergonomic, by the way. Give me a 3-step plan to execute it using AI tools. Again, zero budget, real insights. That's the deal. This was fun. I liked this one. Next Tuesday, I couldn't go to a theme park because I unfortunately got recently laid off. So I did the research from my couch instead. And AI made my research, by the way, weirdly effective.